So tell us more about India's commitment and how it compares to other countries here.
Hi, good morning. Well, you know, it's significant that India, as you mentioned, is the world's, it's the last holdout of the major economies to put its commitments down. So, you know, what that means is that it's part of the process, it's part of the discussion. So that's quite good. But, you know, it's really important to remember that the stakes are quite high for the global talks, of course, but the stakes are also quite high for India. India is home to the world's most polluted city. New Delhi has the world's dirtiest air. It's also home to 13 of the world's 20 most polluted cities. And it's got to balance the idea of cutting emissions with the idea of economic growth. So there's a lot at stake here.
Okay, so do you think this is going to kickstart India's investment in renewables? And where is this money going to come from anyway?
Well, what this does is it really validates what the Prime Minister Modi has been saying about renewables and India's commitment. India's goals for renewables are really quite aggressive. They're hoping to install something like 175 gigawatts of capacity over the next little while. And the commitments that were put down yesterday were saying that it'll get about 40% of its primary energy from non-fossil fuels by 2030. How does it do that? Where does the money come from? Well, the commitment yesterday was saying India expects that a lot of the money and a lot of the help will come from outside India. So, you know, from green funds outside, from commitments from places like the Asia Development Bank and from the World Bank, and also from other countries. So, again, it's a validation, but it's also calling for outside support.
Okay, so there's that. And what does India's commitment not to cut but to slow things down mean in terms of actually reaching a global agreement in Paris?
Again, that's really quite a significant part of this statement. So India is not saying that it's going to peak its emissions. It's not saying that, you know, China has come out and said, well, by 2030 that it expects its emissions to peak. Other major economies like the U.S., they're saying that they're actually going to have absolute cuts. What India is saying and what this commitment really reflects, again, are the competing challenges of controlling emissions, but also acknowledging that there's going to be quite a bit of economic growth in India, which, of course, will be energy intensive. And in a sense, again, it reflects what the Indian policymakers have been saying all along, which is, look, we are a growing economy. We expect to keep growing. We expect that our emissions will keep growing. Really, that's what it's all about. We expect our emissions to keep growing, but we acknowledge also that it needs to be done in a controlled manner.